Hey guys, how's it going? Ricky Widmer here from Most Valuable Podcast, here to give you our college football playoff rankings for week number 12 of the college football season. We're getting closer and closer to the time where we need to crown 4 teams and send them off to the 4-team playoff. However, there's still a lot of football to go in these last few weeks of the college football season. If you're new to this video, how we do it, we're doing the full 25 playoff ranking. Brandon and myself come up with our individual ones. We give points each. For example, number 1 team gets 25 points. Number 25 team gets 1. We add the point values together. That gives us our most valuable podcast playoff rankings. But let's get right into it. The first group, number 25 through 21. And number 25, we've got the USC Trojans. Number 24, the Temple Owls. Number 23, the Washington State Cougars. And number 22, the Wisconsin Badgers. And at number 21, the Oregon Ducks. And we've got a trio here, a trio of Pac-12 teams going from unranked to ranked in these playoff rankings. Oregon and USC getting back into the rankings since falling out. These were 2 teams that we thought would be in the running for the college football playoff. Oregon beating Stanford in Stanford this weekend. USC winning on the road against Colorado. Washington State, they get in for the first time this year, and they went ahead and beat the number 19 team in the country, the UCLA Bruins. And then Temple kind of moving back a few spots with their loss this week. So let's get right into the next one. Number 20 through number 16. At number 20, the Utah Utes. Number 19, the LSU Tigers. At number 18, the Northwestern Wildcats. At number 17, the Navy Midshipmen. And at number 16, the TCU Horned Frogs. And the Horned Frogs almost got another scare this past weekend. Almost lost to Kansas. Just pulled it out. In my rankings, I think I had them falling back a slot or two because Kansas is a winless team. This is a team you should have handled easily. Obviously, you're still feeling the repercussions of losing to Oklahoma State last weekend. Then Navy, they get another win, still a one-loss team, I should say, coming into this weekend. They move up a few spots into the top 20 of our playoff rankings. Northwestern continues to move up with their win of Purdue. Utah kind of taking a step back, losing to Arizona on the road this past weekend. And then, come on, what is wrong with LSU? 2 weeks ago, you looking at these playoff rankings, and LSU was a solid number 4 in our playoff rankings. Now, losses to Alabama and now Arkansas have LSU completely, I'm going to say completely, out of the college football playoff picture. Brandon had Arkansas, for all you Razorback fans. Brandon had Arkansas in his top 25. I just couldn't give him love. I was giving more love to the Pac-12 teams. And hey, I had Temple in there where Brandon did not have Temple in his rankings. But let's move on. 15 through 11 now. At number 15, we've got the Florida State Seminoles. At number 14, the Stanford Cardinal. Number 13, the Baylor Bears. Number 12, the Houston Cougars. And at number 11, the Michigan State Wolverines. In Michigan, what a game this weekend. Indiana, I will say the one thing about Indiana, maybe it's because I'm a Big Ten guy, why I'm giving them a little bit of credit. Man, have they been in games this year. Yes, their record, I want to say they're only a 2-win team, but man, have they been in games this year. They're a 4-win team, pardon me, Indiana Nation. But, I mean, this has been a team that has been in games, should have beaten Ohio State. Now they should have beaten Michigan. They were in the game against Rutgers, lost that one 55-52. They were, I mean, the Iowa game was a one-score game. This is an Indiana team that has lost some close conference games, needed overtime to lose to the Wolverines this weekend. Houston getting the one point win over the Memphis Tigers. And hey, a part of me was like, man, I wanted Memphis to win, and I like Paxton Lynch and the Tigers. However, now we have that undefeated group of 5, and Houston can continue to move up the rankings. However, since they won't have a win like Memphis had in Ole Miss, I don't see them moving up far enough to get into the college football playoff. Then Baylor losing this weekend to Oklahoma. Oklahoma now looks like a viable chance to get up there into the playoffs. Hey, if they can win, and all they need is to win out. Oklahoma just needs to win out. Baylor, if they lose one more, they're going to help the Sooners. And hey, they don't got the easiest Big 12 schedule in front of with Oklahoma State and TCU awaiting them. Baylor, that is. And then Stanford, this was it for Stanford. Stanford needed to win out and win the Pac-12 to get into the college football playoff. I don't think a loss to Oregon really, it obviously doesn't help them, but I think it really kills them and their playoff chances. And then FSU just kind of moving up with a win. Let's move on. Number 10 through number 7. These are the last 4 before we get into our first 2 out and then the college football 4. But at number 10, we've got the Michigan State Spartans. Number 9, the Florida Gators. Number 8, the North Carolina Tar Heels. And at number 7, the Oklahoma Sooners. And I know I said this is the group of 4 before we get into the first 2 out, but every single one of these teams, maybe not Florida, maybe not, but Michigan State, UNC, Oklahoma, all still have a chance. These are all teams that still have a chance to get into the college football playoff. I'm going to start with Michigan State. This upcoming weekend, they play Ohio State. They already beat Michigan. Now if they beat Ohio State and can cement their kind of status for the Big Ten title game, then win that Big Ten title game, hey, they are the champion of the Big Ten, and that could put them in the college football playoff. Look at UNC. UNC looks like they're going to be the team from their side of the conference in the Coastal Division to kind of play Clemson for that ACC title game. Hey, if they win, I mean, a few weeks ago we were saying, hey, worst case scenario for Clemson is they lose to any team in the Coastal and no one from the ACC gets in. Now I'm looking at it at least, and I'm saying, hey, if North Carolina can win out, beat Clemson in the ACC title game, there's a chance North Carolina could have the stuff to be a college playoff team at the end of the season. Then Oklahoma, I mean, I'll admit, preseason, me and Brandon said this could have been the dark horse in the Big 12. Looks like they're becoming just that. And I mean, I kind of wrote them off a few weeks ago, not even thinking about Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State. This is a team where I said if they win out and Baylor just loses one game against Oklahoma State or TCU, that would make the Sooners the outright champion in the Big 12, and that's the thing that the Sooners need. The Sooners need to be the outright champion in order to make the college football playoff, or they will have the same fate that Baylor and TCU had last season. And then we've got Florida, and right now I'm going to pull up the SEC standings, and right now Florida has the hardest of these 4 teams to get into the college football playoff. Right now, they are 7-1 in the SEC, 9-1 overall. If they win out, they will win the East Division. However, looks like they'd have to play Alabama in the SEC title game. So, if Florida wants to get into the playoff, they got to beat one of the toughest teams of the past few years, probably since Nick Saban came to Montgomery, and I don't know, I'd kind of side with Roll Tide at this point if I had to put my money on Alabama or Florida. But let's move on. We'll start with the first 2 out. At number 6, Oklahoma State. And at number 5, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I know what you guys are saying, Ricky. Well, Ohio State got a pretty decisive win over your Illinois Fighting Illini, winning 28-3. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, did not have that. They almost lost to Iowa State. And Iowa State has kind of been to the Big 12 what Indiana has been to the Big 10. Iowa State has been in some games, 2 to be exact, TCU, and now this one against Oklahoma State where they had chances to win conference games, but just couldn't pull it off. So Oklahoma State kind of falling out from number 3 in our rankings last week. Ohio State falling out of the playoffs. And the one thing I will say is Ohio State, the reason why you guys are not in our playoffs this week, Brandon had you guys in. I had the Iowa Hawkeyes in. So I just had the Hawkeyes a little bit higher than Brandon had the Buckeyes. And that's going to bring us to our 4 playoff teams. At number 4, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Like I said, I had them a little bit higher. I'm going to level with you. They had 44 votes or 44 points. Ohio State had 43. So just to give you guys a little bit, 1 point separated Ohio State and Iowa in these rankings. I don't think these two will probably do some of this until we get a decisive champion in the Big Ten title game. But hey, like I said, Michigan State could jump into that discussion if they beat Ohio State this weekend. Then at number 3, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I had them at 4. Brandon had them at 3. They ended up, they're the number 3 team in our rankings. And then a decisive number 2, both number 2 in me and Brandon's rankings, the Clemson Tigers. And then that leaves at number 1, Roll Tide. And this would set up a playoff of Alabama and Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans, Alabama fans, this is your rematch of the national championship that happened a few years ago with Manti Te'o, and we'd get an Alabama-Iowa game. I'm thinking my personal ones. An Alabama-Iowa game, even though I'd love to see that Bama-Notre Dame one. Then we'd get Clemson-Notre Dame, and where these 2 games would end up being played is they would pick the geographical semifinal for both teams. I mean, Alabama would probably be put in the Cotton Bowl. Clemson, because they're further east, they would stick them in the Orange Bowl, and we would have Alabama, Iowa in the Cotton Bowl, and Clemson, Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. But that's going to do it for our college football playoffs heading into week number 12. Go ahead, tell me down below what you think of our college football rankings this week. Hey, Ohio State fans, am I crazy for putting in Iowa ahead of you guys, even though both of you guys are undefeated on the season? Oklahoma State fans, do you think we were justified to knock you out of the playoffs because you just narrowly beat the Iowa State Cyclones this weekend? Who do you guys think outside the top 6 can get back into the playoff discussion? Let us know down below in the comment section. Or if you're like, man, Ricky, I don't want to comment, how about I tweet at you? All the links up there are right up there. My Twitter, Most Valuable Podcast, all that good stuff. Hit that like button if you liked the video, sub button if you loved it. Thank you guys for checking out this video. And as always, have a good day, everybody.